Dear fellow children of God, on Friday, Pope Francis addressed the upcoming U.S. presidential election, underscoring the moral dilemma many voters face. He highlighted the difficult choice between the candidates, referring to this decision as choosing the lesser of two evils. In his remarks, Pope Francis touched on two key issues: former President Donald Trump's immigration policies and Vice President Kamala Harris's stance on abortion rights. Both, he suggested, present moral challenges that affect life in different ways. This idea of selecting the lesser of two evils reflects the complexity of human decision-making. Often, the choices available to us are far from perfect, especially when measured against the high standards of moral and spiritual values. The Bible offers us wisdom in these moments of challenge. In the book of James 1-5, we are reminded to seek guidance from God. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you in moments where the path forward seems unclear. We are invited to seek God's wisdom and rely on His guidance. Pope Francis's remarks on choosing between two imperfect options are a reflection of the moral complexity that faces not just voters, but all believers. Who is the lesser of two evils, that lady or that gentleman? I don't know, he admitted. His candid question emphasizes the weight of the moral choices we must all confront, especially in politics. For many, issues like abortion or immigration are viewed in stark terms, often reduced to single-issue voting. However, Pope Francis encourages a more comprehensive view of what it means to defend life, urging voters to reflect deeply before making their decision. This broader view is also found in the Bible. Micah 6-8 says, "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, to act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." This verse speaks to a holistic approach to justice and mercy, and it serves as a guide for all decisions, political or otherwise. Pope Francis reminds us that defending life means more than focusing on just one issue. It means embracing justice, mercy, and humility in all things. The Catholic Church has always stood firmly against abortion, holding it as a grave moral offense. Pope Francis reaffirms this position, maintaining that abortion is the intentional destruction of human life, which begins at conception. This belief is rooted in the Bible's teaching on the sanctity of life, especially in Genesis 1-27, which states, "So God created mankind in His own image. In the image of God He created them. Male and female He created them. Life, in this view, is sacred because every human being bears the image of God." The sanctity of life is further emphasized in Psalm 139-13:14. For the psalmist writes, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." This verse is often cited as evidence of the Church's teaching that life begins at conception, affirming the inherent value of every human being from the earliest stages. For this reason, abortion is not merely a political issue, but a deeply moral one. Yet, Pope Francis consistently calls for a more expansive understanding of what it means to defend life. He reminds us that while abortion is undeniably important, it should not be isolated from other issues like the treatment of migrants and the poor. Proverbs 31:8-9 teaches, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy." For Pope Francis, this biblical call to justice encompasses both the unborn and those living in poverty, war, and displacement. Pope Francis has been outspoken about the need to care for migrants, viewing their plight as one of the greatest moral issues of our time. He has condemned policies like Trump's efforts to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border, saying that turning away migrants is akin to violence, much like abortion. To send migrants away, to leave them wherever you want to leave them, it's something terrible. There is evil there, he said. He draws a parallel between the defense of the unborn and the defense of the migrant, emphasizing that life, in all its forms, must be respected and protected. This idea resonates with biblical teachings on how we are to treat strangers. Leviticus 19:33-34 commands, "When a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt." These verses remind us that God's people are called to show compassion to strangers and migrants, reflecting the love and mercy that God has shown to all of us. In the New Testament, Jesus speaks about the importance of caring for the marginalized in Matthew 25:35-40, saying, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in." Pope Francis, by condemning policies that harm migrants, reminds the faithful that how we treat the vulnerable is a reflection of our relationship with God. He echoes the teachings of Jesus, who equated caring for the least of these with caring for him. Additionally, Pope Francis draws on the biblical vision of unity found in Ephesians 2:14, which says, "For he himself is our peace, who has made the two groups one and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility, by opposing physical barriers, such as the border wall." Pope Francis advocates for breaking down the walls of hostility that divide humanity and perpetuate injustice. Pope Francis also stresses the importance of caring for creation, a theme he has emphasized in his encyclical Laudato Si. In Genesis 15, humanity is entrusted with the responsibility to work and take care of the earth, reflecting the biblical mandate for environmental stewardship. Pope Francis, like Paul in Romans 8:22, sees creation suffering as a result of human actions and calls for a renewed commitment to environmental justice.